Yes, so we are just going to have a little self-stretching. I please invite you to keep your camera on if you can, so we can all also visually connect. So just a moment of self-stretching, landing, arriving, listening to your body, self-organized. Just follow the pleasure to move and to create this space for connection. Open your body so you can open your mind, release any tension. If there's anything, you may call like that. Just follow all the movement your body needs to do now to create a space of comfort and the tuning into yourself as well. And don't forget to stretch the muscles of your face as well as you stretch the rest of your body. Voila. And you can visually disconnect from the screen. It's not necessary that you look for the moment. You're going to look in a moment after we finish this feel-good practice. All right. Last moments. You can even integrate a moment of self-massage if that feels good in the areas that you most need to connect with, perhaps relax, or just send a message of, hello, I'm here. We're about to go into another wonderful session. Please, let's all, the part of my body, be together. And then we can take a moment to sit down, take your time, no need to rush or abruptly close what you're experiencing. Take your time and find your way back to your seat. And we're just going to close our eyes for a moment and just observe. How does my breath feel in this moment? And is there anything different inside of me at this point? Any different sensation or perception coming from the various parts of my body? And when you can, you will open again your eyes with your own time. And we're going to do another little movement practice. This time it will be guided by a video that I'm going to share. So it works like this. I will facilitate a moment of self-tuning again, as you will all be standing, if possible. And then you will just immerse yourself in the images of the video that I will show. And the idea is that this video offers different natural environments. And my invitation would be that you really keep your connection with your inside and observe if, as the environments change, you feel different movements emerging from your body. So it's really a practice of noticing the response and making it a posture, a gesture, or a movement as you perceive the differences in the images that flow in this video. Sounds like an idea? That is perhaps understandable. Okay, let's do it. Let's see how it works. So this will last, I'm not sure, I will look. It can last, I think, like 5 minutes or so, 5 to 7 minutes. So you will have the time to understand how this can work in your body. And really, the idea is to reach a point where the images enter your eyes and create an impact that become a posture, a gesture, or a movement without you deciding. Okay, so now there is a forest with 3. Let's do like this. No, it's not really like that. It's not really doing things. It's more like being open to transform the images that we receive as if we are a photo camera, noticing the impact and transforming that impact in gesture, posture of movements, even subtle changes. Sometimes an image may just create a desire for me to open just a little bit my chest or raise a little bit my shoulders. So it can be really small. It doesn't need to be wow, wada, okay? But the idea is really to transform impression in expressions and being as empty as possible to make images impact us and making it part of our body. So that's an exploration. That's also an experiment. Let's see how it works, and then we'll see where it will take us. So let me share the screen. There is no audio, so I just removed it, but I will give you the link. This is a very nice video, I think. So you may use it. It has sounds, but I prefer to do it without sound because it's more clean somehow, less influencing your movements. So here we go, just a sec. And so we just start. If you can stand up, that's better. If it doesn't feel okay for you, okay, you can stay sitting. So make yourself available, and this is a traveling into image, silence, and embodiment. Let your body respond to the images that will be coming. And notice if your body responds with opening, closing, directions, even subtle changes in the way your body is organized. Notice which details capture your attention, image after image. and how your breathing also is responding, not just your movement, but also your breathing. And from where you are, what you are experiencing, find a way to keep the image in this video, in the screen in front of you. Somehow keep it inside of you with your eyes closed and keep experiencing this image without looking into the screen and observing how your body is responding to the mental image of this last thing that you saw in the screen. Retain the forest image in your brain, in your mind, and let your body respond to that instead of looking into the screen. And let the image go And just take some moments to observe what's in your body now, what's inside of you now. And again, if there was any change in how you are perceiving yourself now, any shift in your energy, body perceptions. And find a movement or a gesture that expresses what's inside of you now. Which posture, or no, better just a gesture or a movement. So something that's dynamic. What gesture or movement may express what's inside of you now. And you can take some seconds to find it and to do it just for yourself. It can be just one gesture or movement, or it can be a couple linked somehow. You can repeat it and savor it as you repeat it. And savor which quality is this gesture or movement creating inside of you, or perhaps amplifying. What is your felt perception of yourself? And just have this gesture or movement in your memory as you take some time to open your eyes as gently as possible. And I will stop sharing the screen now. And if you can switch your camera on so we can all see each other, I would like to ask you this, which is to just repeat your movement and take some time again to refill this gesture or movement that you were doing. So doing it again sometimes just for yourself, reconnecting with that gesture or movement, even if in front of the screen with somebody else looking at you. And now the idea is to keep repeating this gesture or movement as you also look at others' gestures and movement. So you can notice, and you are with yourself. So it may be hard for somebody or for all of us, who knows, to keep the connection with our movement and the quality we are experiencing, and also connect with other movements. That's a work that is very interesting to do. How can we fully be with ourselves while also interacting with somebody else? And now you are receiving also the impression of the other people's gestures and movements. And you can also notice the impact of this moving forest of beings from one side of the world to the other one. And you are part of it. Okay, and find your way out of this moment of sharing and your way back to the chair or where you were sitting. And if you want, you can share a word for what's inside of you now. Mm-hmm. Space and connection, joy. For me, it's peace, beauty, and connection. Little different than the soft gray that I said before. A tree, freshness, longing, joy, space, peace. Mm-hmm. Tension, still. Okay, that was too short, perhaps. Okay. Wonderful. And okay, so we are all set to begin this session. And calm, yes, thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this flow was really to just experience a different way to stay with our body and in a different, very different connection with digital nature in this case. When we do our in-person workshops in places where we have multiple landscapes all around us, this can be part of the experience of sensing and responding to the various aspects of the environment around us. So of course, it's more interesting to do it actually out there in synergy with real nature. But in case you just you don't have access to that, you just need like a 5 minutes refresher during the day, resetting, reshifting inside. This can be an option. And some studies also show that, yes, digital nature has an impact on us anyway. So, of course, for me, in my experience, it's always better actually living nature out there. But even digital nature has an impact on our brain waves and on our brain states. So just explore that and see if this may be something interesting for you to practice. So let me share my screen once more, and let's recap our journey so far. So we have completed the big frameworks chunks over the past 2 sessions, and we are now diving into this session where we will be sharing a couple more key ideas or cornerstone ideas in our approach, and also share some examples from our real life, my life and my work, and also Azzurra's. So we will be sharing real cases where we applied all the things that we are saying and practicing, and so you can have an idea about possibilities to apply this both to your work on yourself, your personal growth, and perhaps if you have a work that requires you work with people, also how all this work on yourself in synergy with body, nature, and integrating a contemplative approach can also be useful for your work with people, if this is your case, as I suspect it is for many of us here, if not for everybody. And then we're going to have our last session next Wednesday. Yeah, I would say unfortunately, because as usual, I would go on doing this kind of courses forever, but this seems like the end next Wednesday. So there is a metaphor that I always like to use for to talk about ourselves, and the reason also why it's interesting to practice what we are discussing since many webinars. So I like to think that just like a vase determines the shape of the water it contains, we shape the experience that other beings, humans and not humans, have with us. So how we are becomes the place, the space of relationship that we offer to everything that is not I, so all the others. So for me, these the walls of these vase or of this container is made of presence, listening, openness, and the intention that we bring in every interaction. So who we are becomes the space we offer for others to interact with us. And so being a coach, and I know some of you also are coaches, the same applies to our work as coaches or teachers or trainers or facilitators or consultants or whatever your work with people is. So we say that the coach holds the space of the relationship, and the key factors for coaching presence that impact what we bring into the relationship is not only part of our is not only our identity, but is also made of the setting where we coach, so the place where we coach. that is part of the space of relationship and the meanings that our space delivers to who's interacting with us. Just think about the difference between this space and the space where I've been doing sessions with you over the past month or so. So I was in a different space, conveying different meanings, different qualities of presence as well. So then as coaches, we also have the questions, the language we use, and the key concept of partnership, which I will go to a little deeper in a moment. So who we are is how we coach, but also how we lead, how we work, how we teach. You add yours. And in my perception, who we are also depends upon where we are. So if you listen to my TED talk, the one in Italian, I share this thinking that not only, so somebody says that we are the average of the persons we frequent. I think that we are also the average of the places where we go and where we stay the most. And another really a cornerstone concept in our approach, especially when we work with nature in person, is the genius loci. So the spirit, what our ancestors in Italy, so ancient Latins, ancient Romans, defined as the spirit of place. So the original, the unique identity and character of a place in all its historical, naturalistic, artistic, anthropological, and folkloric traits. So it's different to, for example, do a workshop in the heart of Milan, like it was this case. I'm not sure, Azzurra, were you part of this? Yes, okay. So this was perhaps one of the first workshops that I led in the historical center of Milan, a metropole. It's different. Your being is different here, and your being is different here, and your being is different here. And add your own places. I just placed some photos from my workshops. Okay, so the place where we are impacts who we are. So this is another variable that for me is very relevant, and is this concept is at the heart of my practice with clients in person in specific places and not in others. Then we go to Socrates, and on the this is an exhortation that you can find. It's the know yourself, know thyself, and it's inscribed in the temple of Apollo in Delphi, and this is the ancient Greek version of this sentence. So it's gnotis theauton, and so what the culture, the original culture of Europe is like founded upon is this like commandment to know ourselves, develop our awareness. And Socrates, which is one of the fathers of European philosophy, Western philosophy, had this beautiful concept, which is the daimon. And this daimon has many different meanings according to different philosophers. Like, for example, Heraclitus defined the daimon, the character of a person. Socrates defined it as our inner wisdom, so something very close to what I call primal intelligence, or perhaps what he meant is closer to the somatic intelligence, the organic knowing that we've been talking about over the past sessions. So the part of us that knows without knowing, and that we can learn how to empower by aligning this inner knowing with our wider ecosystemic knowing, or ecosystemic intelligence, as we said. For Plato, it was a tutelary genius, somewhere between human and divine, so a very different concept, was more like some kind of a supernatural being. For me, it's our most authentic nature, or sometimes we may even think that it's our inner mentor. So this voice in us that knows what's good for us, our inner compass that points us to the north of our values, of the things that are more dear and important to us. So all the practices that we are discussing, the somatic, the contemplation, the nature connection, for me are ways to connect more with a diamond that belongs not only to us, but also to the collective bodies of the communities we belong to, and to the collective body of the earth with all its ecosystems and living beings. So there is a knowing that flows. Once we plug into this web of knowing, we know, like everybody knows, like bees know when to pollinate, like animals know when to change the territory or to just move, and because they somehow sense that that's not a safe space anymore, and so on. So it's this kind of knowing that for me has a value in of its own to pursue. Because it simplifies lots of things in my life. And so this is what I would like to share with you with our real life examples from Azzurra and me. Very briefly, all the things that I'm sharing with you come from my personal growth journey, and from this practice that I do since 2002, I think, 2001, don't remember exactly, but those are the years approximately. Like saving time every day to reconnect with myself and to create this shift in my inner place. Which I somehow tried to point out with the centering practice that we did at the beginning. We always have an inner space, an inner place, which has certain qualities. Some qualities are perhaps better for us to help us work on our desires, goals, needs, challenges, a way that feels more synchronized and in tune with who we are. And there are inner places and inner spaces that are just not good for decision making or problem solving, because we are all over the place. So the purpose of all this journey is really to give ourselves an anchor in ourselves, in our organic wisdom, which is a wisdom that we share with everything that is alive on our planet. And perhaps even beyond, who knows? I don't know. And I like to recall this quote that we shared in the very first session, Otto Scharmer. He says, leadership in its essence is the capacity to shift the inner place from which we operate, both individually and collectively. And since everything is interconnected, when we change our inner places, we are also contributing to a shift in the wider collective intelligence. And this is going to be linked to next session's topic, especially. So the shift for us are enabled by all the things that we are explaining and practicing. And the outcome for me is an ability to really be present, to really be listening, to really be open, and to integrate my intent, my better intents, I would say, in whatever relationship I am. This doesn't mean that I'm always successful. Of course, I err all the time. So not all the time, luckily, okay. But of course, we are exposed. I am exposed as well to strong emotions, but having an anchor in certain kind of practices really helps me to rebalance and to recenter and to realign when I need it. And I need it, like I think we all do at times. So, my real life example comes from my practice with my tree, basically my apple tree in the garden. And for me, since 2002, it's an almost daily pratica arborea. And what I got out of this practice is immense. So I'm just mentioning here in this slide some of the key learnings that I worked on over the past 20 plus years. So for me, one of the key learnings of this practice, which I did just to practice, but then I understood what it was, what was emerging from me through this practice. And the first thing was really to conquer this learning of how to really be with myself while also really being with another being. In this case, it was a tree, without losing myself in it. And I'm not sure if I share this with you, but I suffered for anorexia nervosa when I was between 16 and 20. So basically, I was non-existent in my body, or at least my body was something and I was somewhere else or something else. So the whole journey of reconnecting with the lived essence and the felt dimension of my body was really a journey that lasted until I was 22, approximately 22. And so for me, learning how to not lose myself in another person was really tough to learn. Respecting myself and the other being. So for the specific story of my family, all others came before me in any case. Working with this tree at the center of the photo, for me, it was really, I can be safe with another being. I can be safe really staying in connection with another being. So that was my deeper learning. And also learning to trust my body meant that if I feel that in connection with this tree, my right arm wants to extend that way, I don't know why, I just follow it and see where it leads me. And magically, there was always a wonderful position where I was landing. So doing this repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly really allowed myself to trust my somatic intelligence, my organic embodied wisdom, trusting that my feet at a certain point felt the pull to extend upwards. And where did that lead to? To a different posture that was releasing more tension somewhere else, and that felt good. So for me, this was really the training. And I think all these things are the qualities that I take into my work with people and as a coach. And the other piece was, okay, it's not just me wanting to do this or my body wanting to extend like that and discovering the meaning and the sense after doing that, but it was also learning how to listen to the response of this other being to what I'm doing and organize my response accordingly. So learning to stay in this dance. I follow my pull to something, I listen to the response, and I respond accordingly. Following moment by moment callings, which you may also call intuitions or insights, and also learning how to stay with silence and escaping the goal-focused world. So this means that I was practicing this just because it was so good for me in my body. It felt good in my body to do this practice, and I was learning a lot. So if any of you is a coach out there, and I know many of you are, in one word, all these, I can define partnering. And this is exactly what I take into my session. So I think that my learning about partnership with a client, and partnership is really a keyword which is essential in the coaching world, especially according to the ICF framework. These are the qualities that I was training with my Arborea practices, and these are also the foundations of any coach work. At least I think that this is it. So these, for example, so I will now share an example from my coaching. One of the many that I could mention, because all the time my body, and if I am so lucky to be able to coach with a client in actual synergy with nature, every session is based exactly on all these things. So about being empty in order to sense and to respond accordingly in that moment. the example I wanted to mention is this one. It's a session that I did last August in the garden where I just showed you the trees. So that was the place. On the left of those trees in the garden, a couple of step backs. So this was a session with a man who was on a process of working on his professional development as a freelancer. He is a teacher of nonviolent communication. And so I invited him to have a session in my garden. Right behind the trees that I just showed you flows a stream, which usually is there and doesn't enter the garden, okay, and the house of my father. Usually it's like that. So for this session, as usual, I asked him to choose a place where we could start our conversation, our coaching conversation. So he was exploring on another side of the garden until he reached my apple tree. And he said, no, this is not the right place. And then he noticed a spot in the garden where he said, yeah, that can be the place. I like it because it was a bit hot. So it was in the shadow. It was, imagine, behind the trees, but on the left, so closer to the stream. So I brought there 2 chairs and we started to talk about the session, his outcomes, and so on. And as he was talking, he was sharing a lot about the scarcity he was perceiving in his life. And I don't remember exactly what else came into the sentimental situation was also not satisfying. So everything was based on scarcity. So as he was talking, at a certain point, water started outflowing from the stream. And it was not because sometimes we have it planned, like 2 times per month during the summer, the stream, we open the gates and we let the water come inside the garden to water everything. But that was not the day. So it was not planned. The gates were not being lifted by anybody, but the water was flowing inside to the point that at a certain point we needed to change place because we had our feet wet. And so I used that and I was honoring the intelligence of, I don't know, my client he's really sensitive. So he sensed that was the place for him. And by chance, water started outpouring from the bed of the stream. So that happened, but also, who knows, the intelligence of the place contributing to somehow what he thought was an invitation to reconsider his scarcity-based perspective on a generosity and overflowing richness that in many other ways he was experiencing in his life. So this allowed to shift our conversation in that direction and to shift his perspective from seeing just the scarcity to seeing all the amazing things that were overflowing in his life. And there were many, I wasn't aware, but then he started mentioning them. So that's for me an example of how supporting also our clients, if we work with people, to raise their inner radar for in connection with nature, supports them in finding the right places to reach the right for them in that moment insights. And for me, that was an amazing example of collaboration with the place. Was the place collaborating with us intentionally? I don't know. I would not expose myself to such a statement, but who knows? That's what happened, and I loved it, and we loved it, and then that was like a turning point for my client as well, and appreciating and being grateful to himself was part of his daily practice after this, to support himself in shifting his attention to scarcity or richness in his life. And last thing that I want to share, and then it will be on to Azzurra, is how all this work with all the things that I'm stressing you so much to practice leads also in my work with groups. So when I do a workshop, I like to say, okay, I will just show you this couple of sentences and then I stop sharing. So I co-create the workshop in synergy with the group and the place. I'm going to explain this in a moment. And I also trust the unknown as it unfolds through the relationship that I establish with the group establishes with me, and we all establish together with the place. So typically, when I organize a workshop in any situation, like with corporate teams, with the Nature Coaching Academy cohorts, whatever experience is scheduled to be outdoors in synergy with nature, for me, it works like this. There is the designing place, the designing time, where I wonder, okay, based on my awareness and knowing of the team, what we have to do together, the goals we need to work on. This can be the idea of the workshop. So I am very detailed with all, we will do this for 30 minutes and then this and this and this. So I always do that. And even though I know that it's totally useless most of the time, because all this planning then is put in relationship with the place once I meet the team and once we meet the place. So typically we have an idea and we just use perhaps 20% of those ideas that I had designed on my own without the group and without the place. So wonder how effective could that be on my own here with my photos, it cannot work like that. So what happens is then usually a couple of days before the experience, I do my practices, my meditation, and I somehow sense the theme of the experience. This is especially true with the Nature Coaching Academy workshops, while with corporate, it works a little different because it's more like we have a goal and that's the goal. And then we work on it in synergy with the place. But for the in-person workshops of the Nature Coaching Academy, usually I receive somehow during my meditation practices the topic that we're going to work upon. And then we listen together to the place, and it's like practices emerge from this fabric of relationship, of shared relationship. So there are my ideas, somehow 20-30% I use my previous ideas, and all the rest is really co-created in synergy with the place, taking chance by, I don't know, I notice some aspects of the environment that seem to offer a great chance to invent a practice. So most workshops are invented in the moment, and this is also how we create our practices together, because the group has always an amplifying and magnifying effect on our brains. This is my experience. So all the loads of practices that we teach most of the times come either from personal practice or from group practice. So these are the ideas that I wanted to share, just to give you some, possible applications of what we are experiencing. And now I would like to listen to Azzurra, and then you will be engaged also in reflecting on your ideas on how to use all the things that we are talking about in this session for your personal growth and also for your work, whatever it is.
Grazie, Diana. It's always super nice for me to hear it from another perspective, because most of them I was there with you, participating to the workshop. So guys, today I'm extremely happy to go through my experience, which you will see that will nicely complement Diana's experiences, because the way we built it is to show you as much as possible of the possibilities that we all have to take all the learnings from this course, combine in a way that it's good for us, for ourselves, for our work, and go out there. So similar to Diana, what I'm going to share is how in different way Ecosomatic approach enable growth on myself, with my clients, so in one-to-one coaching, and also with group. So I'll start with a personal story. Diana talked about how her daily self-practice is really enabling her full presence on all the things that she said. Well, I'm going to talk about a specific example on how a self-coaching with a natural element subject really enabled me to completely shift my perspective on a specific case. And the case is, I think it was a little bit of the middle part of COVID, so we were still locked. And I moved to a place that I rented in the mountains. And despite I was in a beautiful place, I felt that I was really stuck. And for the people who know me, I'm very energetic, pragmatic. I do a lot of stuff. So despite I mentally understood that was a moment to stop, I was feeling confused, trapped, and completely out of energy. So that thing was going in my mind for a few days or weeks. So one day, okay, I'll go. And the question that I had in my mind was, how do I move from here? And then I just left home and I say, I don't decide where I'm going to go. I just follow the path or my gut or whatever was calling me. And I ended up being on this river, which is very close to where I live. I usually go there. And those days, the river was full of ice and it was like a frozen river. And then I went to the river. And the first thing that I did, as Diana said, was like, I felt, didn't think. I felt it was the right place, the place where my body wanted to stay in that moment. I let it emerge my somatic practice. I didn't do the usual one that I do every day, but it just let emerge all the movements and in that moment were emerging on my body in that context. And then I tried to ask that question to exactly this place, which was like, how do I move? And then I didn't answer with my mind. I let the place answer to myself. And then, of course, it was a long experience. It lasted nearly 1 hour. So I got home and it was like nearly frosted as well. But I just tried to summarize what were the message that I got from my self-coaching with the river. And that emerging observe different elements. I was basically paying attention. One element was catching my attention. I would go closer, I would touch, I would interact, I would simply observe from far away. And the first thing that I observed was this, beautiful water that it seemed that it was completely still. So the first message that I received or I interpret was, even if everything around looks still, there's actually still movement inside, below, beneath. So there's movement. The other message that I got when I saw that all the branches and the rocks, they were beautifully integrated in this frost river was sometimes it's good to stop and stay still because it's not bad. It's just life cycle. So don't force into it. The other message was like, okay, everything looks cold and rigid, but actually there's the earth that is solidly supporting all the weight and the things that you see cold and frozen. And the last one, I basically realized after a few minutes that there were some birds and there were some, let's say, not noise, but I mean, sounds from nature. So it was like, okay, in this moment, I'm really feeling alone, but I'm not alone. I'm surrounded by beautiful living creature and I'm just part of it. And this is a beautiful circle. What was the end of that? The end of that was basically that nature helped me completely change my state of mind and helped me reframe the question because I was super stressed and focused on how do I move from here. And the message that I received from nature in that moment was like, in this moment, it's good to be here. So the self-consciousness that I realized from that self-coaching moment, simply absorbing what was the nature communicating to me in that moment, that simply let emerge everything that was already inside myself, helped me to do this mindset shift that instead of every day obsessing myself, how do I move? Then the question that I started asking was, how do I stay still and still enjoy and still take something out of it, which doesn't necessarily mean produce, move, evolve, but in that moment it's like, how do I fully savor my staying here. So I think this is very much linked to what we have said, that sometimes if we're fully present in nature, that can really help us to completely change our presence, our consciousness, and our state, and see things or see possibilities that we don't usually see if we just approach life events or or problems or objective with our usual rational and problem solving thinking. So this is about me. Now I'm going to move to a case that I had with a private client. It was one-to-one coaching, but I usually integrate and use a lot the ecosomatic approach also with clients whenever it allows. So that client was basically working on, I have two working possibilities. Which path do I choose? Now I'm simplifying. And then I basically propose and build the session, co-built and co-created on the go, mainly leveraging the body in nature as usual. And then I will explain you what is the image that I put on the right. And the way that I use it, not use is not the right word. I leverage body was, first of all, to enable entire presence and awareness for both, not just for the client, because also when I was arriving there, despite I was doing my personal practice, I also needed to connect with the client and to connect with the place. So as Diana was saying, the partnership was there, but the partnership is something that I feel the need to activate and re-engage every time. So that moment was shared, and it was for both of us to come there at the opening of the session. And also at home practice is something that the client was noticing during the session and would say, for example, I felt something here, I would like to explore more. We use the body as a vehicle to let the inner information emerge. So instead of, again, should I go here and there, to listen to the body and see the options that were available, and that let the body answer, and just listen to the body sensation and feeling and let them emerge, because most of the time the answer is already inside. And then we leverage the body as a generator of new possibility, because a lot of time just with a new movement, a new gesture, the opportunity to see reality with different lens was coming, and also to see that in reality was not just possibility A or B, there were several. A and B is just what the person in that moment was just simplifying and screening. Similar, we leverage nature in different ways, and I really would like to tell a couple of words on those, because we have seen that nature can be several things. So first of all, a lot of times we use as a session location, so background landscape, so we were physically going into nature. Most of the time it was not just a place, but it was the place, natural subject were really allowing us to co-create the experience. Very similar to what Diana said, something, for example, that I proposed to that client is, okay, you're saying now that you have possibility A and B, look at where you are. We did it in a park in the city. Which path represent option A, which path represent option B? Where do you feel drawn? Nowhere. Okay, which path do you feel drawn? That way. What is that way? So we really integrated the nature again to let the message emerge, and to again to create new possibility to understand that probably her beliefs and social pressure would make her feel that she needed to choose between A and B, but probably where she wanted and she could go was somewhere else. I love to call nature as a messenger, because sometimes it was just looking at a tree, listening to a bird, catching a flower, that it was like, I call it the light bulb saying, oh my God, it was so evident. And now this nature element is telling me this. And then last but not least, I'm saying as a metaphor and frame, and here I would link to the picture that I chose. One of the final exercise of practice that I proposed to the client was the flower of possibility, which was like, after I really observed and learned about myself, I feel that as of today, for me, is possible. And then, I mean, there are a few things that the client wrote. It was an Italian, and she was an Italian client, so it's written in Italian. So it's like a joy, hope, being part of it, And then the last petal was like a question mark, which is I will always see and perceive that I have more possibility than what I see. I mean, the days is not full, and this is really an exercise from the empowerment. And this basically ended up the journey. So it was just to say that sometimes we can also use nature indoor, as Diana was saying, leveraging different way like metaphor or frames or drawing that would let the client connect to that aspect, still think differently, and see new possibilities. Last example that I have is about my group experience. And that one is basically, it was a team outdoor event where my role was to design a positive intervention for a group, a corporation. And the objective that I was briefed to, so in that case was corporate client, as Diana was saying, was to generate awareness of the resources that these people they had, first of all as individual, and then what were the synergies that they could create with other team members. I put some details here just for you to know. They're not relevant for today, but you can look at them when we send the material, just to say how we can also turn everything that we have seen in a more pragmatic, organized, and structured way when we're a guided group that require a little bit more of structure, as it was in this case. And I really use the mix of the approach between coaching, nature connectedness, and embodiment. The way I structured the day, again, is not to go into detail, but just to give you an idea, was I started asking myself, what are the objectives of the day? Then I've seen what were the intervention that I could take. And as you've seen here, I mix a lot of things also on positive psychology that we have discussed last time. And then I designed which were the activity. And as you see, I really started the day with focusing on the bottom, which is create full presence and make the participant feel they had in a safe space to experiment. And I leverage a lot the embodiment, the nature immersion through the grounding and the nature saving. Then we work on let them feel what were the personal strength, and I use some strength card, which are tree based. So they take the metaphor of the different trees and they basically talk about the characteristic of those trees, and then they could choose which one they would relate. Then we started on building the gratitude toward other of the group. That was a working group, and they built basically a thanking note totem, nature inspired. So they went outside nature and they look at natural elements they would like to give to the other people to thank, and let them also understand and appreciate what were the resources they were put into the group. And then we finalized, let's say, the work with what are the company values, which is what you find in the leaves, and how do you think that you can embody and bring to life the company value as an individual and as a group. And what you find on the right is basically the final work that was built at the end of the day with individual resources, group resources, and nature. Everything was nature inspired. Some is natural elements. Some they did a little bit of art and craft, because I also wanted to create a little bit of creativity and dynamism there. And this is something they brought in their core office as a reminder every time that they go to the office. Now, I would like to share few things about this experience, but for the sake of time, I will just concentrate on the main one. We measured this intervention to understand, because the company wanted really to understand what was the impact overall on the awareness of the resources and the impact of the atmosphere of the culture, but also on the work. And basically, I won't go through it now, but for me, what was super relevant was that the nature connectedness, the participants say they really felt everything we're saying here, right? The body, the relaxation, the thinking differently, the sense of connection. And what for me was really striking is that despite this was one day only, they really say that appreciating the natural beauty really made them think what they can do differently in the future to respect nature and to have some behavior that are more nature, let's say, nature friendly, I would say. And block their autopilot and give back the beautiful and nice moment that the nature gave them to that day. So for me, this was also something super nice, because on top of the pure results of the intervention, we also built something on top. And now my learnings on that was that my self-care practice before that was absolutely vital to be the container. Diana initially shared the vase today, so I was the one really being the container. And here myself practice was done in a very different way. I was doing weekly journal to to track my emotion. I was doing some meditation of mindful self-compassion, and I was doing some daily somatic practice. The fact that I could really pass the message that nature was not just a background, but a co-creators that can really generate transformative experience. And then the combination of the different interventions, something they need to create, something that they need to look for, something they need to experiment, was really good to engage different type of needs, personality, and learning styles. And last thing that I would like to say is everything brought me to the conclusion that everything that I did on my self-practice, self-care allowed me to be fully present on that day. As Diana said, had my beautiful structure with perfect timing, which I needed to, I would say, at least 60% readjust or somehow change. So my full presence was key, not to panic for any unexpected things, or not to impose the group to go with my rhythm, because maybe the group rhythm in that moment was different. There were some unexpected fears like bugs or dogs in the park. So I really leveraged the power of relationship and the supportive group. And then last thing is, there were some moments where the groups lost presence, meaning they were either chit-chatting, or their attention was drawn by something else. So I really felt it was extremely important to nail down which were my indicator of full activator of presence, as I know you worked yours. And I won't go into detail. I will send you in the thing to say that after that, I have created what are my presence activators. So whenever I need to create full presence with a group at the beginning of the practice or during the practice, I exactly know what are the things that I can relate to, how they could be activated, and what would be the possible effect. With that, I will conclude. I hope that you appreciated, let's say, the complementary approaches and the diverse possibility you do have to activate all that. And I guess that this is your moment to work a bit.
Wonderful. So we're now going to split you in pairs to share your experiences of coaching with nature for yourself, for your personal growth. This would be the focus, since the focus of this course is on your personal journey with nature through body and contemplation. I would ask you to reflect for just a moment on what was over the past month and a half. What were some moments where you have really sensed what it means, what it can mean for you to connect with nature so much that you start coaching, that nature starts being your coach? Which examples stand in your memory as, yes, those moments were really enabling a transfer of knowing between me and nature? Which moments left you with this perception of reconnecting with your inner compass, refind your center, your balance? Review this past month and a half, especially related to the practices that we proposed, if there's any example related to that, or with any other practice that you do beside this course. And get ready to share with another colleague from this group. And I know Agatha cannot stay. Can you please message in the chat if you don't want to be paired with anybody? I don't know, because you have to go or whatever. Otherwise, I will just create the rooms. So Micol and Agatha. Yes, ciao Micol. Okay. So we can...
Arnaldo as well.
Arnaldo, perfetto. So there are going to be pairs and also some triplets, or otherwise, you know what? I would like you to choose your room. So let's do like this for this time. So I'm opening all the rooms. Choose your room and somebody else will join you in some seconds. So the purpose is just to share moments of coaching with nature, where you felt that nature was really expanding perspectives, igniting new ideas. Mm-hmm. No more than 3 persons in every room, please.
How do you choose a room? Sorry.
Yeah, yes, two persons is actually better.
How do you actually choose the room?
I think you get presented the various rooms and then you just choose. You click on a room and choose join, select join. Otherwise, I will do that for you, Jonathan, no problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not getting any selection option.
No problem. Jonathan and Laura, I will assign you to room number 1. Okay, voila.
Thank you.
Then Carl. Let's see. Okay, Carla, I can assign you to another room. Just a sec. So I will move Valentina to room 4. Move to room 4, okay. And Carl, okay. Where'd you go? Ok, niente. Carla, allora aspetta che la rimetto in room 2. Ok. Bon. So let's stop recording. We are. So I saw that you have mainly created triplets. I hope you have the time anyway to share some things with your colleagues, despite you were 3 of you. It was 3 of you in each room. And so in 3 minutes, this session will be over, but I'm happy to stay a little longer. I can stay, perhaps Azzurra needs to go, but I can stay a little longer if you would like to share anything from the sharing in the triplets or in the pair, or any question, anything else that at this point feels like you really would like to say and share here. I'm happy to stay. So if you have to go, I love you and I appreciate you being here tonight once more. And so we will meet again next Wednesday, and you will receive a workbook anyway after this session with some of the slides that we share and also some additional homework, of course. And you will have a natural coach practice, which refers also to some of the things that we share and also some more things. Then we have sent you also a pre-end survey, pre-end of the course survey. I noticed that just a couple of you have replied, but just a reminder, if you want to give us feedback before next Wednesday, please do it. And also if you want to send us questions, we have received a couple of questions which we will address. We have to decide either in an additional video that I may make, because one question is really interesting. So it may become a little video extra that I will add in the chat. And that's the question of Laura, the how to use the biomimicry life principles in a coaching session, for example. That's, I think, an interesting example that I would like to have some time to share, for example. And if you have any other question, that's the place. Please send us either via email or WhatsApp directly to me or Azzurra, or using that form. That would be amazing. So is there anything that needs to say something at this point? Any sharing, something? that needs to be said at this point. Many of you are going, so bye-bye. You can raise your hand if you would like to have a sharing at this point, so I can see if somebody is staying. Yeah, Augustina. No, Augustina was going, and everybody's going. Wonderful. So goodbye, everybody, and see you next Wednesday. Ciao.
Thank you, everybody. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.